Marcus Tate never imagined that one ordinary Thursday night would become the dividing line between the quiet life he had built and the storm that would soon consume the entire town of Barrington, Ohio. He was a man who had learned to live carefully, not fearfully, but carefully, the way many black men in small American towns learned to do. Respectful tone, hands visible during traffic stops. Don't linger too long in certain neighborhoods. Keep your voice steady even when you are right. He had mastered all of these unwritten survival rules, and until that night, he thought they would always be enough to keep trouble away from his door. He had just finished his late shift at the distribution warehouse where he worked as a supervisor, checking inventory logs, signing out trucks, and making sure the younger workers got home safely. Marcus believed in responsibility. He believed in stability. He believed in doing things the right way. But as he drove home in his 10-year-old silver sedan, the dashboard clock blinking 11:46 p.m., he saw flashing blue lights erupt behind him like a sudden explosion in the dark. His heart tightened. Not fear, not guilt. Just that familiar tension, the one every black driver in America knows, the immediate question of whether this will be a routine stop or something else entirely. He pulled over calmly on Maplewood Avenue, a quiet stretch of closed storefronts and shuttered gas stations. His hand stayed on the wheel. The officer approached slowly, too slowly, Marcus thought, like someone choreographing intimidation. The officer's name tag read Hawthorne. Officer Daniel Hawthorne, tall, lean, pale eyes that didn't blink enough, known around town for two things, an impressive arrest record and a trail of complaints that mysteriously never went anywhere. License and registration, Hawthorne said, but not like a request, like a test. Marcus handed everything over smoothly, explaining he was coming home from work. His voice stayed level. Hawthorne didn't even look at the documents before saying, "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus felt a crackle of warning inside him. "May I ask why, officer?" Hawthorne leaned closer, breath smelling of mint and something harsher beneath it. "Step out." Marcus complied, moving slowly so not a single gesture could be misread. He had watched enough news to know what could happen otherwise. But as soon as he stood outside, he noticed something chilling. Hawthorne wasn't alone. A second officer, one Marcus didn't recognize, stood partially hidden near the rear of the patrol car, phone raised, recording. Not body cam, a personal phone. That was wrong. Against protocol, against everything. Marcus didn't know why, but it felt like a setup. "Turn around," Hawthorne ordered. "Hands on the hood." Marcus did. The hood was still warm from his engine. Hawthorne started patting him down aggressively, far more aggressively than necessary, squeezing his pockets, yanking at his jacket, pushing his shoulders. Then Marcus felt Hawthorne's hand linger too long near his back pocket, as though placing something rather than finding anything. Instinctively, Marcus turned his head. "What are you doing?" he asked. Hawthorne shoved him hard. "Stop resisting." Marcus froze. He knew that phrase could justify anything. Behind them, the second officer kept recording. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and Marcus's pulse hammered because he couldn't understand why. He had done nothing. He had no enemies, no record, nothing in his life that could attract this kind of hostility. When Hawthorne pulled a small plastic packet from Marcus's pocket, something Marcus had never seen, his stomach dropped. Drugs planted, clear as day. "Look what we have here," Hawthorne said loudly, performing for the camera. Marcus shook his head immediately. "That's not mine, you just put that." Hawthorne slammed Marcus against the car, metal biting into his cheek. "You're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute." "Intent?" Marcus choked out. "You know that's not." Hawthorne pressed harder. "You keep talking, you'll get resisting and assaulting an officer added to your list." The cold certainty of a nightmare settled over Marcus. This wasn't random. This was deliberate, but he still had no idea why. Hawthorne cuffed him brutally, almost gleefully, and shoved him into the back of the patrol car. As the door closed, Marcus saw the second officer lowering his phone, smirking slightly. They drove in silence until Hawthorne received a radio call. The voice on the other end was strained, urgent. "All units, shots fired, River Point District, multiple casualties, requested backup immediately." Hawthorne swore under his breath. Moments later, he swerved the car violently, making a sharp U-turn. Marcus slid across the back seat, shoulder slamming into the door. "What are you doing?" he asked. Hawthorne didn't answer. Instead, he stopped the car in front of an abandoned mechanic shop. Dark, empty, no cameras. He dragged Marcus out of the car, cuffs digging into his wrists. "Listen to me very carefully," Hawthorne said, grabbing Marcus by the collar. "You saw nothing, you heard nothing. You're going to plead guilty and walk away with probation if you're lucky, or you can fight this and lose everything, your job, your home, your life." Marcus stared at him, stunned by the brazenness. "Why are you doing this?" Hawthorne didn't answer. Instead, he said, "Funny thing is, no one will believe you anyway." He shoved Marcus back into the car and drove toward Barrington Police Department. Marcus felt nauseous, terrified, helpless, but something inside him was also rising, anger sharper than fear cutting through shock. This wasn't justice. This wasn't policing. This was personal. But how? When they arrived at the station, Marcus expected to be processed immediately. Instead, Hawthorne walked him past the booking desk down a corridor he had never seen. The hallway was empty, quiet, too quiet. He was shoved into a small storage room that had been converted into a temporary holding space. A single flickering light, no windows, one security camera in the corner, and even from here Marcus could see the cable dangling loose behind it. Fake. He was alone. Minutes passed, then 20, then 30. Until finally the door opened, and Chief Raymond Caldwell stepped inside. The chief, a man known for his stern speeches about community integrity and maintaining order. A man who rarely interacted with detainees, a man who absolutely should not have been here. Marcus's confusion deepened. "Mr. Tate," the chief said, voice smooth. "I'd like to offer you some advice." "I didn't do anything," Marcus said immediately. Officer Hawthorne planted. Caldwell raised a hand. "Please understand something. You are not here because of what you did. You are here because of what you were about to do." Marcus frowned. "I don't even know what that means." Caldwell stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You work at Northern Freight Logistics. You supervise loading. You oversee nightly shipments." Marcus swallowed. "Yes." "And tomorrow night," Caldwell said, "you were scheduled to work the B-14 loading bay." Marcus nodded slowly. "Same as usual." Caldwell's eyes hardened. "There is a shipment coming through that bay tomorrow, a shipment you are not meant to see." Marcus felt the realization like a physical blow. This wasn't random. This was a cover-up, and he had been swept into it because he worked the wrong shift at the wrong time, or because he might have noticed something he wasn't supposed to. "So you frame innocent people to hide whatever illegal crap you're involved in," Marcus said, anger rising uncontrollably. Caldwell's jaw flexed. "Be very careful how you speak." "Why me?" Marcus demanded. "Why target me?" Caldwell considered the question. "Because no one listens when men like you complain. Because courts don't take you seriously. Because juries don't trust your word over a decorated officer's." He paused. "Because the system makes this easy." The cruelty of the truth struck Marcus like ice water. He had always suspected this sort of thing happened to other people in other places, never imagining he'd become one of those headlines. Caldwell continued, "You're going to sign a statement tonight admitting possession. In return, you'll get a plea deal and vanish quietly. If you do," Caldwell leaned closer, "your family will suffer, your job will release you, your record will destroy your future, and if you push too hard," he let the threat hang unfinished, which made it even worse. Marcus felt his breath shaking. He wasn't a coward, but he wasn't reckless either. He had a mother who depended on him, a sister he helped put through school, a life built on hard work, and now everything was being held hostage. Caldwell placed a pen and paper on the table. "Sign." Marcus stared at the paper. The room seemed smaller, the air thinner, the world unfair in a way he had always feared but never experienced so directly. "Sign," Caldwell repeated. Marcus's fingers curled slowly into fists. This was wrong. This was evil. This was a system designed to crush people like him and never face consequences. But something in Marcus refused to bend, not this time, not like this. He lifted his eyes and locked onto the chief's with a quiet, dangerous resolve. "No." Caldwell's expression shifted, but not to anger, to something far worse, calculation. "Then you've chosen your path," the chief said calmly, "and it won't be a pleasant one." With that, he walked out, leaving Marcus alone in the flickering light, cuffed, terrified, but more determined than he had ever been. Outside the door, he heard Caldwell give an order. Process him in isolation, no calls. It meant only one thing: they planned to bury him completely. But Marcus had no idea that far from being buried, his refusal had just set off a chain reaction that would soon expose the darkest secrets of Barrington and ignite a war between truth and corruption that no one could stop. Marcus sat in that dim, flickering storage room for what felt like hours, though he knew it was probably less. His sense of time had become distorted by fear, anger, and the suffocating pressure in his chest. He kept replaying every moment of the night in his mind, dissecting it. trying to make sense of why a group of sworn officers would go to such lengths to frame a man who had done nothing but show up to work every day. But Chief Caldwell's words echoed relentlessly. "There is a shipment coming through that bay tomorrow. A shipment you are not meant to see. Whatever was coming into the warehouse must have been significant, illegal, dangerous, highly valuable, or politically explosive." But the more Marcus thought about it, the more he realized this wasn't just about hiding a package. This was about eliminating any witness before they even had a chance to see it. They hadn't just framed him. They were preparing to destroy him. Suddenly the door to the holding room opened and Officer Hawthorne stepped inside. Marcus braced himself instinctively. Hawthorne looked almost disappointed. "The chief tells me you decided to be difficult," he said. Marcus didn't reply. Hawthorne took a slow step forward. "You know, when people like you refuse to cooperate, life gets messy. The law stops working in your favor and the world stops caring." Marcus held his gaze. The world already doesn't care. Hawthorne smirked, clearly irritated that Marcus didn't sound defeated. "Well, let's see how much fight you have left by the time we're done processing you." He grabbed Marcus by the arm and dragged him out into the hallway. Two other officers stood waiting, Officer Peters, known for his hot temper, and Officer O'Reilly, who rarely spoke but had a reputation for enjoying compliance work. They walked Marcus past the booking desk. A young clerk glanced up, confused. "Isn't he supposed to be processed over here?" "Special handling," Hawthorne said sharply. The clerk didn't argue. They led Marcus down another corridor toward what looked like a storage area behind the main cells. A camera hung above the door, but its power light was off. Dead, the perfect place for abuse. Hawthorne unlocked the door and shoved Marcus inside. The room contained nothing but a metal chair bolted to the floor and a desk without any paperwork, clearly not a real interrogation room. Peters shut the door behind them and folded his arms. "Let's get this over with," he muttered. O'Reilly cracked his knuckles. Hawthorne stepped closer to Marcus. "Last chance, sign the statement, admit to possession, walk out with a plea deal." Marcus could feel his pulse pounding in his throat. "No." Hawthorne's jaw tightened. He nodded at the other officers. O'Reilly moved first, grabbing Marcus by the shoulder and slamming him into the metal chair so hard the cuffs bit into his wrists. Marcus grunted in pain. Peters grabbed his chin, forcing him to look up. "Listen carefully," Peters growled. "We're giving you a chance most people don't get. You want to throw that away, fine, but don't say you weren't warned." Marcus stared at him, silent but defiant. Hawthorne leaned in, lowering his voice as if offering a favor. "The chief doesn't like loose ends. You refusing this deal makes you a loose end." Marcus felt his mind racing. He needed to stay conscious. He needed to survive. He needed a plan. At that exact moment, the door swung open abruptly. All three officers stiffened. A fourth officer stepped in, young, awkward, clearly nervous. His badge read R. Neal. Officer Ryan Neal. Marcus had seen him occasionally at community events, handing out flyers for the department's outreach program. Neal wasn't dirty, at least not obviously. Neal looked from Marcus to the three officers and swallowed hard. "Chief wants him processed officially," Neal said quickly. "Right now." Hawthorne narrowed his eyes. "That's not the directive we were given." "Well," Neal said, voice wavering, "that's the directive now." Peters stepped closer. "You sure about that?" Neal hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, direct order. He wants him in holding cell 4 with the other detainees." Hawthorne studied him for a long moment. Something unspoken passed between them. Then Hawthorne jerked his head. "Fine, but if this gets messy, it's on you." Neal stepped forward, grabbed Marcus's arm, and pulled him quickly out of the room. Once they were down the hallway, away from the others, Neal whispered, "Keep walking, don't look at anyone." Marcus kept his eyes forward, heart racing. Neal guided him toward the main cell block, a place with functioning cameras, witnesses, and procedures. Safety. As they approached the door, Marcus whispered, "Why are you helping me?" "I'm not," Neal muttered. I'm helping myself. Marcus frowned. What does that mean? Neil opened the cell door and lowered his voice even further. Whatever's coming in tomorrow, I heard Caldwell talking. It's federal, not drugs, not weapons. Something bigger, something that can get anyone caught up in it killed. If they silenced you tonight, they wouldn't stop there. They'd come for anyone connected to the process, including me. I'm not dying for this department. He shoved Marcus gently into the cell, more like a friend guiding someone than an officer forcing a detainee. Before Marcus could speak, Neil whispered, "Someone's coming to see you. Someone who might actually help." Then he shut the door and left quickly, as if staying longer would implicate him. Marcus stood in the cell, trying to steady his breathing. The other detainees barely glanced up. A drunk man sleeping, a teenager lying on a bench, an older man muttering to himself. Marcus sat down, mind spinning. Who was coming to see him? How did Neil know? Minutes passed. Then the heavy metal door opened again. A woman entered, flanked by 2 officers. She carried a briefcase and wore a tailored blazer over a navy blouse. Her expression was sharp, focused, purposeful. She moved like someone used to fighting in rooms full of people who didn't want her there. She approached the cell. "Mr. Tate." He stood slowly. "Yes." She introduced herself without lowering her voice. "My name is Maya Brooks." "Public defender." Marcus blinked, stunned. "I didn't ask for a lawyer." "I know," she said simply. "Someone else called me." Marcus's mind raced. "Who?" Maya ignored the question for now. "Officer unlocked the cell." The guard hesitated. "Ma'am, he isn't cleared for legal," Maya snapped. "Under Ohio state law and Sixth Amendment constitutional protections, you are required to grant my client immediate access to counsel, regardless of departmental directives." The guard reluctantly unlocked the door. Maya stepped inside, closed it behind her, and lowered her voice. "We don't have long. I need you to tell me exactly what happened." Marcus hesitated only a second before recounting everything. Being pulled over, the planted packet, the threats, the hidden camera, the chief's involvement, the shipment at the warehouse. Maya listened with sharp intensity, taking notes mentally, her expression darkening with every detail. When he finished, she said, "This isn't a simple frame job. This is conspiracy. And if what you're saying about the shipment is true, then this department is involved in something far more serious than narcotics." Marcus nodded grimly. "Chief Caldwell said the system wouldn't believe a man like me." "Good," Maya said. "Let him think that." Marcus stared at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Maya said, eyes flashing with a strategist's fire, "we're going to use that arrogance against them." Before Marcus could respond, the cell block door opened again. Hawthorne walked in. His eyes locked onto Maya immediately. "What the hell are you doing here?" Maya stepped out of the cell with practiced confidence. "Meeting my client. He doesn't have a lawyer assigned yet," Hawthorne snapped. "Now he does," she replied. "And unless you want an obstruction charge added to your list of future problems, I suggest you stay out of my way while I conduct privileged legal conversation." Hawthorne stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think you can walk in here and disrupt an ongoing investigation?" "I know I can," Maya shot back. "And I know you have no grounds to hold my client without allowing him his legal rights." Hawthorne's jaw tightened. He turned to the guards. "Move them back to processing." Maya leaned toward him slightly. "And if he comes out of this cell with any new injuries, I'll personally make sure the Department of Justice knows your name before sunrise." Hawthorne glared at her, then at Marcus, then stalked out of the room. Maya grabbed Marcus's arm gently. "We're walking out of here together." Marcus blinked. "They're not going to let me go." "They don't have a choice," she said. "Not tonight, not with what I just triggered." As if on cue, another officer entered, this one older, holding a stack of paperwork. He glanced nervously at Maya. "Judge Reynolds approved your request." "Good," she replied. "Release on recognizance into my custody." Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. "I'm free." "Temporarily," Maya said. "And not safely. We need to move." She guided him out of the cell block before anyone could interfere. They walked quickly through the station. Officers glanced at them, whispering, but no one intervened. As they stepped outside into the cold night air, Marcus breathed deeply, the sensation surreal. Maya opened her car door and motioned for him to get in. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Somewhere safe," she said. As they pulled away from the station, Maya finally answered the question he had asked earlier. "You asked who called me." Marcus nodded. "Yes." Maya glanced at him briefly, then back at the road. "Someone inside the department who doesn't want to die for Caldwell's secrets." Marcus immediately thought of Neil. It had to be him. Why would he risk that? Marcus asked. Maya exhaled. "Because whatever is coming into that warehouse, it's not a normal crime. I've seen enough closed-door memos and sealed cases to recognize patterns. This is high-level, federal level, and if the police chief is involved, then this town is sitting on a powder keg." Marcus swallowed hard. After a long moment he asked, "What happens now?" Maya's answer came without hesitation. "Now, Mr. Tate, we expose them." Marcus felt a shiver run through him. For the first time that night, not from fear, but from the beginning of something that felt like hope. Dangerous hope, but hope nonetheless. Maya drove fast, but not recklessly, weaving through quiet Barrington streets illuminated only by the cold glow of flickering streetlights. Marcus sat beside her, his hands trembling slightly from adrenaline and exhaustion, wrists still raw from the cuffs. The world outside felt unreal, like he had stepped out of his own life and into someone else's nightmare. Maya's phone vibrated constantly, messages, alerts, emails, but she ignored them all. "We can't go to your house," she said without looking at him. "They'll be watching it, and your workplace even worse." Marcus nodded. "Then where?" "A safe location, not far. Owned by a friend of mine who works with civil rights cases. It's secure." They made several turns, doubling back twice, Maya checking mirrors constantly, scanning shadows. She had done this before, Marcus realized. This wasn't her first time protecting someone from a corrupt system. Finally, they pulled into a narrow alley behind a row of quiet storefronts. Maya parked behind a rusted dumpster, then led him through an unmarked door that opened into a small office lit by warm yellow lamps. Inside, a man in his 50s looked up from a desk cluttered with folders. "You brought him?" he asked. "Yes," Maya replied. "Marcus, this is Elijah Carter, investigator, former DOJ. Elijah gave a small nod. "You're safe here for now." Marcus sat as Maya closed all blinds and locked the door. Elijah leaned back in his chair. "Tell me everything from the beginning." Marcus went through it again, detailing every moment from the traffic stop to the threats, the planted evidence, the hidden camera, the chief's involvement, and the mention of a mysterious shipment. Elijah listened with an expression that never changed, but something darkened in his eyes every time Marcus mentioned Caldwell's name. When Marcus finished, Elijah stood slowly. "They're not afraid of you, they're afraid of what you might know." Maya crossed her arms. "We need to understand what this shipment is. If we expose that, everything else collapses." Elijah exhaled sharply. "I may have a lead, but it's going to be dangerous." Marcus looked between them. "Why me? Why go after me so aggressively?" Elijah answered quietly. "Because corrupt men choose victims the system won't defend. You are exactly the kind of person they think they can crush without consequence." Marcus felt anger burn through him, stronger than fear now. Maya opened her laptop. "We need evidence, hard evidence. Something we can take to the state attorney or federal prosecutors." Elijah added, "And something so undeniable that even Caldwell can't bury it." Marcus leaned forward. "Where do we start?" Elijah pointed to him. "With your warehouse." Maya nodded. "You were scheduled for Bay B14 tomorrow night. That means the shipment arrives between 10 p.m. and midnight." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "If they framed me to keep me away, that shipment must be everything." Elijah said, "We need someone on the inside, someone who can get close without triggering suspicion." They all knew the answer before anyone said it. Marcus whispered, "Me." Maya shook her head immediately. Absolutely not. They tried to kill you. They will again. But Elijah raised a hand. Wait. He's the only one whose presence at the warehouse won't raise alarms. He's supposed to be working that shift. His replacement will look odd. Unless, Maya countered, Caldwell already issued a personnel order removing him. Elijah considered that. We'll check. Maya typed rapidly, hacking into internal schedules using a backdoor she shouldn't have had but clearly used before. After a moment, she sucked in a breath. Marcus was removed from the roster 2 hours ago. Already cleaning up loose ends, Elijah muttered. So if he shows up, they'll know something's wrong, Maya said. Marcus looked at both of them. So we find another way. Elijah paced slowly. We need intel first, surveillance, not confrontation. We need to see what's coming in. Maya added, and we need to expose it publicly before they have time to bury us. Elijah suddenly stopped pacing. There is one possibility. A warehouse security blind spot. Old cameras at B14 haven't worked for months. Facility management never fixed them. Caldwell doesn't know that. Marcus's breath caught. A blind spot meant a location where they could gather evidence without being recorded. Elijah continued, if we can get someone inside that blind zone to record the shipment being unloaded, we have the evidence we need. Maya asked, but who? Elijah looked at Marcus. Someone they expect to see nearby, someone invisible to them. Marcus thought of the men who worked the graveyard shift, mostly older workers, immigrants, people overlooked. But one face came instantly to mind. Anthony Lewis, a forklift operator who often covered Marcus's brakes. A quiet man in his 20s, always wearing headphones, blending into the background. I think I know someone, Marcus said. But I can't ask him to risk his life. Maya fixed him with a steady look. You're not asking him to risk his life for you. You're asking him to protect the community. If something dangerous is coming through that warehouse, it will eventually hurt everyone. Marcus knew she was right. After a moment, he said, I need a phone. Elijah handed him a burner. Marcus dialed Anthony's number with shaking fingers. It rang twice. Yo, Marcus, you okay? They said you got in some trouble. Marcus took a breath. Listen carefully. Don't repeat anything I'm about to say. Anthony paused. All right. Marcus explained the situation, careful, concise, direct. When he finished, Anthony cursed softly. Man, that's messed up. What do you need? Tomorrow night, Marcus said, I need you to position yourself near the B14 bay at 10 p.m. Don't be seen, don't say anything to anyone, just record whatever is unloaded from the incoming truck. Anthony hesitated. Marcus, if they catch me. I know, Marcus whispered. I wouldn't ask if it weren't life or death. Anthony was silent for several seconds. Finally, he said, I got you, but after this, you owe me a drink. Marcus smiled faintly. Deal. When he hung up, Maya said, we have to plan for every contingency. Caldwell will have officers at the warehouse. He might even oversee the operation personally. Elijah nodded. I'll scout the perimeter an hour before. You two stay here until I return. Marcus felt restless, but he agreed. The next day crawled forward painfully slow. Marcus couldn't sleep. Maya researched Caldwell and his connections nonstop. Elijah left early to investigate city records, import logs, and warehouse access lists. Hours passed. Afternoon became evening. At 8 p.m., Elijah returned, face tight with urgency. I found something. The shipment coming to B14 isn't listed anywhere in warehouse manifests, but I traced a coded entry in the city's customs log. It's marked as Federal Transit Unit 9. That designation is only used for one type of transport. Maya's face went pale. Biological cargo. Marcus felt chills race down his spine. Biological, like chemicals. Elijah shook his head grimly. Worse, it could be pathogen samples, viral research material, or experimental compounds, anything classified under federal biosecurity. Maya muttered, if Caldwell is moving biological materials off the official grid, he's not just breaking the law, he's committing treason. Marcus whispered, So the reason they're silencing me isn't because of drugs or guns. It's because I work the loading bay of a biological shipment that they're smuggling. Elijah nodded once. Exactly. At 9:30 p.m. they geared up. Elijah handed Marcus a black hoodie and cap. Stay low, stay hidden. Maya added, if anything goes wrong, you run, don't be a hero. Marcus nodded. They drove separately, Elijah in one car, Maya and Marcus in another, approaching the warehouse from different routes to avoid suspicion. At 9:55 p.m. they parked a block away. The warehouse looked different at night, alive, humming, patrolled by men in uniforms that were not standard security. Federal contractors, Maya whispered. Unauthorized, off books. Caldwell hired mercenaries. They positioned themselves behind stacked crates near the blind zone, watching from cover. Elijah whispered into the earpiece, Anthony is in position. Marcus exhaled slowly. At exactly 10:03 p.m., a large black truck with no license plates rolled into the B-14 bay. Caldwell stepped out from the shadows wearing gloves. Anthony's voice came through the earpiece. Recording. Two men opened the truck's rear doors. A chilling sight appeared, 3 sealed steel containers with biohazard symbols and federal research tags, not street drugs, not weapons, something far more dangerous. Caldwell spoke sharply to his men, move fast, this gets delivered tonight, no delays, no witnesses. Suddenly a flashlight beam swept dangerously close to Anthony's hiding spot. Anthony whispered, someone's coming toward me. Marcus's breath caught, footsteps, voices, then, hey, you there. Anthony cursed under his breath. Someone had spotted movement. Elijah hissed, we need to extract him now. Maya grabbed Marcus's arm. Stay down, but Marcus was already moving. He couldn't let Anthony get caught because of him. He sprinted from the shadows as Caldwell shouted, grab him. Anthony stumbled backward as 2 contractors lunged toward him. Marcus tackled one, sending them both crashing into crates. Elijah fired a warning shot into the air from a concealed pistol, causing chaos. Maya shouted, run. Marcus grabbed Anthony and dragged him toward the fence. Bullets hit the metal siding around them. Caldwell roared, stop them, I want that phone. Anthony thrust the phone into Marcus's hand. Take it, go. Marcus shoved it into his pocket as they dove behind a dumpster. Elijah yelled, this way. They sprinted across the lot as men chased them. A truck engine roared to life. Someone fired again. Metal sparked near Marcus's feet. They cleared the fence and tumbled into the grass. Maya screeched the car to a stop nearby. Get in. Marcus pushed Anthony inside as Elijah jumped into the passenger seat. Tires screeched. They sped away into the darkness as Caldwell shouted in rage behind them. They didn't stop driving for 5 minutes until they were several miles away. Finally, Maya pulled into an abandoned industrial yard. Everyone was panting. Anthony was shaking uncontrollably. Elijah grabbed Marcus's shoulder. Do you have the phone? Marcus nodded, pulling it out. The screen wasn't cracked. The recording had captured everything. Maya stared at it, then at Marcus. This is enough to bring the entire department down. Elijah added quietly and maybe uncover a national scandal. Marcus leaned back against the seat, heart still racing from the escape. So we expose them now. Maya shook her head. No. If we release this without protection, they'll kill us before morning. Elijah nodded. We need the right ally. Marcus asked. Who? Maya met his eyes. Someone powerful enough to scare even Caldwell. Elijah added, someone federal, someone who can't be bought. Marcus swallowed hard. Who is that? Maya answered in a whisper. An investigative journalist, one who already suspects something is wrong in Barrington. The air grew heavy. The stakes were rising. And Marcus knew the next step would determine whether he lived or became the next buried witness. They had the evidence. Now they needed to survive long enough to use it. The courtroom fell silent as Jordan prepared his final argument, the weight of months of danger, intimidation, sleepless nights, and relentless pressure tightening around him like a vice. Everything he had fought for, every risk, every confrontation, every moment he stood between Marcus and a system determined to crush him, now came down to this last stretch of truth. Judge Reynolds observed him with a cautious, almost conflicted expression, as though she sensed the magnitude of the battle playing out before her, but had not yet decided whether she would allow justice to break through the walls that had protected the powerful of Barrington for decades. Jordan stepped forward, and every eye followed. The jurors leaned in subconsciously, something in the intensity of Jordan's presence pulling them forward. Even Officer Keenan, sitting behind the prosecution table with his jaw clenched, shifted restlessly as though anticipating the blow he knew was coming. Jordan's voice was steady, strong, and unwavering as he began. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution would have you believe that Marcus Tate, a man with no criminal record, a supervisor loved by his co-workers, a father, a husband, a citizen who has never once in 38 years raised a hand against anyone, suddenly decided one night to attack an armed police officer outside his own apartment building with no motive, no history, and no logic. Jordan paused, letting the absurdities. That story only works if you ignore every piece of evidence, every recording, every inconsistency, every lie, and every attempt to silence the truth. But you have not ignored it. You've watched it unfold. He raised the printed transcripts of dispatch logs. The officer claimed a weapon. You saw there was none. He claimed aggression. You saw calm compliance. He claimed threat. You saw fear of retaliation from a citizen who dared speak back. The jury shifted uncomfortably. Some exchanged looks. Jordan pressed harder. You now know about the pattern. You saw the reports, the deleted footage, the internal complaints that vanished. You heard from residents who were ignored or intimidated into silence. You watched the video that the officer didn't want anyone to see. The video that was almost destroyed. Keenan finally snapped, shouting to the prosecutor, "Are you seriously going to let him talk like this?" Jordan didn't stop. Marcus wasn't accused because he committed a crime. He was accused because he witnessed one. A low ripple of reaction spread across the courtroom like a shockwave. Judge Reynolds raised a hand for silence but did not interrupt Jordan's momentum. He moved closer to the jury, voice softer but heavier with meaning. Marcus stood up for what was right. He spoke the truth. And for that, he became the target of a system that protects itself at the cost of innocent lives. But today, for the first time in this town's history, you have the power to break that pattern, to say no more, to show that truth cannot be erased. Jordan stepped back slowly. The choice is yours, and it is bigger than this one man. It is about the kind of community Barrington will be after you walk out of this room. He concluded quietly, find him not guilty, because he is. The courtroom was unbearably still as he returned to his seat. Marcus looked at him with deep, exhausted gratitude. The jury disappeared to deliberate. Hours passed. The waiting room became a pressure cooker. Residents gathered outside the courthouse. News vans arrived. Social media exploded with clips of the leaked footage and Jordan's powerful statements. Finally, after nearly 4 tense hours, the bailiff opened the door. The jury has reached a verdict. Marcus swallowed hard as he returned to the defendant's table. Jordan placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. Keenan stared ahead, motionless. The jury foreperson stood. We, the jury, find the defendant Marcus Tate. A second of silence stretched like an eternity. Not guilty on all charges. Gasps, cheers, tears. Marcus froze, not breathing, not moving, as though his mind needed time to register that the nightmare was finally ending. Jordan exhaled shakily, relief flooding through him. But before celebration could fully erupt, something else happened, something no one expected. Judge Reynolds cleared her throat and addressed the entire courtroom. This trial has revealed serious misconduct within the Barrington Police Department. Effective immediately, I am ordering a federal review of the department's internal affairs procedures, body camera practices, and officer complaint records. Officer Keenan, please step forward. Shock rippled through the room. Keenan slowly stood, defiance flickering in his eyes. Officer Keenan, the judge continued, based on the evidence presented, I am formally recommending criminal charges including falsifying police reports, tampering with evidence, and violating civil rights statutes. The room exploded in noise again. Keenan shouted, "This is a witch hunt. This town needs order, not—" Bailiffs grabbed his arms as he resisted, shouting curses at Marcus and Jordan. The symbolism was unmistakable. The oppressor was finally being held accountable. Marcus stood there, heart pounding, witnessing the moment justice struck back after years of silence. Outside, the crowd celebrated. Journalists swarmed. People embraced Marcus, thanking him for standing strong even when the entire system tried to crush him. Jordan shielded him from the cameras until they reached a quieter corner near the courthouse steps. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "You saved my life," he said. Jordan shook his head. "You saved your own. I just made sure the truth didn't die." But this story didn't end with a verdict. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The Justice Department launched a full investigation. Officers who had quietly suffered under Keenan's shadow stepped forward with testimonies of coercion and corruption. Several officials resigned. Civil rights organizations offered Marcus speaking opportunities. His story became a rallying cry for national reform. A documentary crew approached him. A nonprofit offered him a community leadership role, but the most important change happened locally. The people of Barrington, Black, white, Latino, Asian, came together for town halls. They demanded accountability. They rewrote policies. They rebuilt trust. Marcus became one of the most respected voices in the movement, not by choice, but by conviction. Jordan's career skyrocketed. Offers poured in from top civil rights firms. But he stayed in Barrington, at least for a while, wanting to help rebuild the community he'd just helped save. One spring afternoon, months after the trial's end, Marcus stood outside his apartment building, the same place where everything began. The sun was warm. Children were playing. The air felt lighter, free. Jordan joined him holding 2 cups of coffee. "You ever think about how close you came to losing everything?" Jordan asked. Marcus nodded slowly. "Sometimes I still wake up thinking I'm back in that cell." Jordan looked at him with quiet respect. "But you fought. And now things are changing because of you." Marcus took a deep breath of fresh air. "I just want to make sure no one else goes through what I did." Jordan smiled. "Then let's keep fighting." The camera of the imaginary world pulled back. A man once targeted, now standing tall, surrounded by a community no longer asleep, no longer silent. His story wasn't one of defeat, but rebirth. And across Barrington, across Ohio, across the country, people began to say his name, Marcus Tate, the witness they tried to erase, but who instead became the catalyst for change.